Hi everyone, it's Dr. Rick, founder of Herbal411.com, and today's unboxing is on Theanine. I did do a previous video on L-theanine's power with regards to sleep and mood, and I think it went over well. A lot of people have switched over to 200 milligrams of L-theanine at night. The only problem is you have to take your average pill with fluid to swallow it. And if you're supposed to take this 20 minutes before you sleep and then you have this 20 minutes before you sleep, well, guess where the fluid is going? You're going to have to pee. And I realize some people don't need that much to swallow a pill, but even if your bladder is 1/4 full of urine, you make it half bladder full of urine, that might be the urge. If your brain starts to wake up, it might be the urge, or you might get the sense that you have to empty your bladder. And that defeats the process of having to take L-theanine at night to make you sleepy. So that's why I came up with this one, or I'm trying this one. This is not a capsule, but it's a chewable tablet. I just did a video on iron for restless leg syndrome at night. Check it out. I'll put a link down below. But these tablets are bigger than these tablets. And again, I think that this is fair to, don't mean to talk and chew at the same time, but pretty good. There must be sugar in here because I can taste sugar. Organic cane sugar xylitol. So if you watch my video here, the iron that you can use for restless leg syndrome, there's some nice data that says that it might help with restless leg syndrome and a couple other things if you take chewable iron. This iron has stevia, a sugar substitute. So if you combine that with this, which has xylitol and cane sugar is sugar, so hopefully it doesn't have how much there is, but there is a signal of plain old sugar in your stomach. Hopefully, if you're quiet, if it's minimal, it won't trigger an insulin dump. I don't think you're going to have that. The other problem, though, is xylitol. Xylitol is an alcoholized sugar. It gives a taste of something sweet, and it does taste sweet, but it also, in some papers, destroys or irritates the gut lining, the gut microbiome. So you do have to plan to work with the xylitol. I might say off the bat, some of you who have terrible IBS or borderline irritable bowel syndrome or Crohn's disease or celiac sprue, you should be careful about taking alcoholized sugars. So if you want to see how this looks, I don't know that you'll be able to see that. That is it. So I'll spell it xylitol. And in fact, I put a couple other sugars that you shouldn't be having. But the cool thing with this is you don't need fluid to swallow it because it's chewable. And it's 200 milligrams per 2 chewable tablets. So you have to take 2 tablets to get 200 milligrams. The data shows 200 milligrams helps if you take it at night. And if you do this right before you sleep, cool. I've asked my wife, who is a dentist, if people that take things like gummies at night or something with a sugar substitute, if we should be brushing our teeth after we do it. And she said it's not necessary. We'll see, because if I get cavities in a month, you'll know why. And then I'll get in trouble with my dentist doctor. So the objective, again, is just to try to provide you better sleep. And with regards to L-theanine, those of you who follow me know I love magnesium, and there is a database with animal studies that showed improvement with sleep. I wanted to show you this. This is a picture of a rat sleeping in a nest. But it does have other illustrations. It's kind of cool. And again, small study, but pretty decent to show that there's a positive effect. And again, L-theanine, no downside. And the price was, I don't remember what I paid, but it was nominal. So those of you who are having to go for a beer or having to take in cannabis, cannabis is fine. Beer is not fine, because if you're using beer to go to sleep or alcohol to go to sleep like wine, eventually that liver is going to say, hey, stop doing that. Or after the wine, alcohol, beer, or shot wears off, you're going to wake up with just as much stress as when you started drinking at 9 o'clock in the afternoon. So, I mean, at night. So I don't like alcohol because it just screws up everything else and it leads you down the wrong road. Cannabis, I don't have a problem with if you use the right cannabis, CBN or equal portions of THC, CBD. I think I've done some videos on that. But I think this is a natural way to introduce a little bit of a nudge to get you to sleep. In addition, you have to do some type of ritualistic practice to introduce sleep every night. So those of you who, I have one guy who's got his system backwards, and it's very complicated, but he stays awake at night, he goes to sleep during the day. That doesn't really bode well with a full-time job. So, or it's going to end up making somebody fall asleep while they're driving home. So very dangerous, but the body is ritualistic. And we all work on hormones that come and go. A flood of hormones starts to be secreted in the morning from the adrenals, about 5 o'clock in the morning for me, and I'm up. I'm ready to go. And that's also the time when testosterone is highest, and there's quiet during that time, so I happen to love the morning. Some of you might not like that. I go downstairs, have some tea, start reading, answer some emails, and meditation or prayer. Now, during the day, it's important to also have planned activities, planned meals, so that your hormone secretion is pulsed at a certain amount of time. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, that's a pulse of hormone. It's usually insulin, but still, the body can figure things out. And then there's that morning rise, cortisol, if you're really ritualistic, or if you need a big buzzer on your alarm. But bottom line is that you have the stimulus in the morning. You have the stimulus with 3 meals. And then if you also start to impose a stimulus or a ritual at night, like getting off of the TV, getting off of the computer, because all this blue light that I'm looking at, it gets into the eye, stimulates the retina, tells melanopsin that you're awake, and it fools the brain into thinking, even if you are dead tired, if you're looking at a screen up until like half an hour before you sleep, you might be dead tired and you might be fatigued, but your brain is still awake because all that blue light makes your brain think it's 12 in the afternoon. So it's important to have that ritual so that you know it's time to cut out no matter what. And we all get busy. We get busy with kids, we get busy with projects, homework, and sometimes you go past the sleep time. Or if you're binge watching, you really go past the sleep time. So you just have to be honest with yourself and put some value into restorative sleep. So you start with a ritual where you get away from screens. You also probably shouldn't be drinking too much, whether, I don't care what it is, anything, soon before sleep. I have some people who try to get in about a gallon or a liter to a gallon a day of fluid because it's healthy to be hydrated. But if they're trying to squeeze in the last amounts of their liter right before sleep, that's going to go somewhere. So I wouldn't do that. I would take your 24-hour total and I would try to push it all during the day and finish it at around, say, 6 if you're going to sleep at 9. Because that way the body is equilibrated, the volume is equilibrated, the kidneys get stimulated, and then they just make you pee, but you're done by the time you lie down. So that's another trick is, if you have no choice, then you have no choice. If you work second shift, okay, fair. But another thing you can do, aside from keeping dry, is you lie down and the change in posture makes the kidneys filter a whole crap load of fluid all at once. When you lie down, I don't want to get into baroreceptors and changes in renal blood flow, but when you lie down, a lot more fluid gets to the kidneys. And when the kidneys get a lot of fluid, they start to filter really well. And when they filter, you'll see these drops of urine go down from the kidney that's been filtered into the calyx, into the ureters, and then into the bladder. Bladder, an average human bladder, can hold up to 1,000 cc's. That's max. So you would think, if a bladder can hold this amount, this is a liter, I believe. Yeah, this is a liter. So if my bladder can hold this amount, why do I have to wake up at 2 in the morning and pee off a little bit, a cup? And it's because the brain isn't well rested. So that's my contention. I think there are some guys who actually have big prostates, and when you have a big prostate that hits the bladder, there's effectively no space in the bladder, so that's why some guys have to pee more frequently. But my guys who blame it on prostate or blame it on age, I check their prostate, and I don't check that many prostates anymore, but I check their prostate. It's like prostate's normal. That's not from a big prostate. That's from you having a bad habit of sleeping. And it's not intentional, obviously, but if you don't have a ritual where you turn off the screens, if you don't have a ritual where you stop eating 2 hours before you go to sleep, if you don't have a ritual where you take all your fluid in the morning and the afternoon and maybe late afternoon and stop, if you don't have any ritual, well, start the rituals. And then also the calming effect. So if you take your showers at night, a warm shower and then toweling off and then going into a coolish bedroom, that delta or that change in temperature tells the body time to hibernate. That's why you're supposed to keep your bedroom temperature a bit on the low side. Not freezing cold, because that'll wake you up, but just cool. And everybody has their own sense of cool. If you have hot flashes, there's a way to take care of that. There's textiles that evaporate. There's textiles that cool, meaning clothes and beddings and pillows that cool. You can also use menthol, or I think I did a video on a topical evaporative. In fact, I'll put the link down below. And sometimes if you put that on right before you sleep, if you don't take showers at night, you will have the sense of cooling. And sometimes that'll go into a couple hours, and that might help with your hot flashes. That in a fan, and then the right amount of clothing and or the right textiles and blankets and sheets to use. So I'm getting a little bit off track, sorry. But that's why it's so important to have that kind of ritual. And then in the morning, even if you haven't slept right, you should start your day. Because if you initiate this ritual and you make it, morning starts like this, meals are here, exercise is here, ritual for sleep starts here, your body will figure out what to do. And then the next morning here, if you do that on a regular basis for about 2 to 3 weeks, there's some literature that says that 3 weeks is enough time to have the body get into a new circadian rhythm, and bingo. Now, if you're taking naps during the day, sorry, but probably shouldn't. I know that other countries do that, but we're not other countries, and we're different here. We're totally stressed out. And it's important to get a 15-minute nap so that you don't fall asleep driving home, but try to move that away, reset the circadian rhythm so all of your sleep is at night. If you can do that, the brain goes into these slow waves, which I think I've done a video on. I'll see if I can find one and put the link down below. Your brain goes through waves, and the initial wave of when you get tired is all dependent on what you did during the day. So if your day was screwed up, stressed out, sleepy, nappy, and you have alcohol, the night's not going to be good. It's like dating. You have to court somebody, you have to wine and dine them, you have to show them your love, and then you get the prize. So if you don't do all that and you just want the prize, that's not going to happen. If you just ignore your day and then you say, I'm going to sleep, pull the covers off, turn off the lights, I'm going to sleep, and then you're wide awake, well, it's because your day was all effed up. So it's important to ritualize this thing. And the final thing is, if you don't have a calming practice, you should develop a calming practice. I know a lot of you will say, I'm not stressed. Well, let me get your blood pressure. I'll show you that you're stressed. But even if you're not stressed, it's important to have a form of exercise that you do the majority of the week. It's important to eat properly. It's important to not hate everything. It's important to also get some good sleep. Now, if you don't have a mindful practice, that's the hate thing, then you should investigate one. And if you don't have one, go see a psychologist. I think a psychologist, most of them are very good at implementing and designing personalized routines for calming practice. Or you can read about it. I have breath exercise that I learned from the Chopra Center. I have yoga that I usually will enforce. But I also have the rosary that I do all the time. But you don't have to do what I do, you just have to do something. But the other cool thing with L-theanine is that it also helps with cognitive function. So those of you who have really, really tough memories, or you have a gene of Alzheimer's disease and you have the ApoE4 positive gene, this will help. I mean, sleep helps beat cognitive decline, but if you can get L-theanine to help with stress response, and I do believe it improves sleep in both of these, but it also improved mood and cognitive function, it's only a chewable tablet. So if you can just deploy a chewable tablet and you feel worlds different, thumbs up. If you can deploy this and you do all those other things that I mentioned in this video, then that's a big thumbs up, because poor sleep or fragmented sleep or shortened sleep does increase the chances for Alzheimer's disease and dementia. So we don't want to do that. If you've worked your fingers to the bone and now you're 65 and you're retiring, but now all your money and your savings is going towards medical bills, that's not cool. So I think that you should always look forward at least 2 to 3 decades and see where things might end up, and then try to reverse them in the current time before you get to that future destination, and then you're screwed because you can't go backwards and you'll have to invest twice as much effort at that point in time because your metabolism's old. So hopefully this gives you a couple of ideas. Share this, please, with others who are on this journey and they don't know where to go. And please give me a thumbs up if this was helpful, because it helps the algorithm and I can put more of these things out to self-empower. This is not supposed to be a substitute for medical advice, so take it to your doctor and see how it pertains to you. Otherwise, I'll see you at the next video. Thank you and good night.